They said I was cursed, the kind of girl who brings bad luck just by standing in the doorway. And on the day the prince came to choose a bride, they told me I wasn't even allowed to be seen near the palace. I was sent to the stream with a bucket like a servant, while other girls were oiling their legs and practicing how to smile for royalty. A few hours later, that same prince stood in front of the whole village and said in public, "That's my wife," and he was pointing at me. Crazy, right? Let me tell you what really happened, because this story didn't start like a fairy tale. It started in the dark while I was scrubbing floors. I used to wake up before the rooster made a sound barefoot on cold cement with a rusty bucket in one hand and a rag in the other, and I would scrub the veranda while whispering to myself, "Please let today pass in peace." Peace almost never happened in that house. Before the sun even thought about rising, I would hear that voice cut through the silence. "Useless girl, you're still there. Who will wash the toilet? Who will warm the water? Are you waiting for your ancestors to help you?" And my whole body would tense because I already knew what the day was going to be. That voice was my stepmother, Vero, and in that house, whatever she said, that was law. If I moved too slow, she'd slap me. If I looked tired, she'd call me cursed. If I tried to defend myself, she'd double it and tell everyone I had a bad spirit. The worst part wasn't even her. The worst part was that my father watched and said nothing. He would just sit outside chewing a stick, acting like he didn't hear a thing. You ever try to cry quietly so nobody can accuse you of making drama? Yeah, that was my normal morning. It wasn't always like that. When my mother was alive, this same house felt like sunlight. Her name was Ada, and she had the kind of presence where you'd hear her laugh from the next room and instantly feel safe. Everything smelled like soup and perfume and joy. She used to hold my face in her hands and call me my angel, kiss my forehead, and dance with me in the living room with no music. Then she died, and my father, the same man people in the village called Chief Okuru with respect, just kind of broke in half. He stopped joking, stopped smiling, stopped being a father. He would sit under the mango tree for hours, like he was waiting for her ghost to come back and sit beside him, and I would stand at the door, watching him, and thinking, if he doesn't come back to life, who's going to take care of me? The village decided to solve that for us. They said, a child can't raise herself, he needs a woman in the house, and that's how Vero came. And let me tell you something about people like Vero. Monsters do not always walk in screaming. At first she was sweet, too sweet. She brought me dresses, combed my hair, sat me in her lap, fed me with a spoon, called me my daughter, and I believed her. I was a child, and I wanted to believe her. I even told my friends, my new mommy is better than my old mommy. She says she loves me, and I meant it. Then she had her own baby, my half-sister Ma, and everything switched, like someone flipped a light. The pet names stopped. The softness disappeared. And I wasn't daughter anymore. It was you, this stupid girl. First it was little scoldings, then it turned into full insults. Then the beatings started. Wake up, bad luck. You think you're here to be pampered like my own child, she'd shout, and I would already be awake, standing, apologizing for things I didn't even understand. You know that kind of tension where your shoulders are already up around your ears by sunrise because you're bracing for impact. I tried one time to tell my father. I still remember I went outside, sat on the ground next to him, while he peeled an orange under the mango tree, and I said, "Papa Mommy Vero beats me a lot." And he didn't even turn his head to look at me. He just chewed slow and said, "You should be more respectful." That was it. That was the conversation. That was the moment I realized nobody was going to save me, not even the man who was supposed to love me first. Tell me in the comments, if that was your father, what would you have done? After that, I wasn't treated like family, I was treated like staff. By the time I was 10 years old, I was walking alone to the stream to haul water, cutting firewood in the bush, sweeping the compound, washing dishes, cooking meals, laying out firewood for the kitchen, and still being called lazy. I begged to go to school, even part-time. I said, "Please, I'll do all my chores. I just want to learn," and Vero laughed so hard she held her stomach. "School for you, for what waste money, so you can come back and be sweeping. You're the first daughter you're supposed to sacrifice so your younger sister can have a future. Let Ma go, she's the one worth investing in. Do you think that's fair?" And just so you understand, I never hated Ma. She was a kid. I washed her uniform at night so she could wear it clean in the morning. I rubbed oil on her legs when she said they ached. I massaged her arms, I helped her sleep. I did not hate her. I just disappeared so she could exist. That was basically my role in the house. Be invisible so they could shine. Then the announcement came and the whole village went wild. I was walking back from the stream one afternoon, sweat on my neck, my wrapper tight, my feet dusty, and I heard royal drums and trumpet calls. Messengers from the palace were in the square yelling, "Gather round, all households with maidens come out," and people ran like money, just fell from the sky. I just stood there on the roadside with my water sloshing in my container. The tallest guard raised his staff and shouted so everyone could hear, "Prince Ifeanyi, son of our great king, has returned from America to choose a bride. In 7 days, there will be a dancing ceremony, and the girl he chooses will become his wife." The entire place exploded. Women were already ululating. Mothers literally dragged their daughters home like merchandise they had to polish fast. And for 1 second, I'm telling you the truth, my heart lifted. Just a little. I thought maybe I could try. Maybe I could at least show up. When I got home with that tiny piece of hope still in my hands, Vera was already screaming like she'd won the lottery. "God has finally remembered us, Ma. Your time has come. You must not let any other girl distract that boy from tomorrow. You're going straight to the palace. We will secure the prince before anybody else tries nonsense." Ma was spinning around in happiness, like she already had a crown on her head. I just stood in the doorway of the kitchen and waited. I'd learned by then to keep my mouth shut until I was called. The next day, our house turned into a training camp. Vera went to the market and came back with perfumed soaps, skin oils, glowing creams, silk wrappers, coral beads, waist beads, all of it for Ma. She started drilling her like a coach. Lift your chin, smile, but not too much. Show small teeth, not all your teeth, tilt your waist, more again, 1, 2, 1, 2, like that. Meanwhile, I was sweeping in the corner, boiling water, washing wrappers, cleaning plates, making food, staying out of the way. I watched, but I was not supposed to be seen. That night I did something dangerous. I spoke. I said soft, respectful, careful, "Mommy, I want to go for the dancing competition too. I know I don't have nice clothes, but I can still dance." She turned so slow it made the hairs on my arms stand up. She didn't even need to hit me, her words landed like a slap. "Are you a baby? Is it competition? You want to drag with your junior sister. Now do you want to spoil her chances? You should be sacrificing for her. You're the first daughter, act like it. Go pound yam for your father and stop talking nonsense." So I went to the backyard, and I pounded yam with both hands shaking, and I swallowed that hope like it was something wasn't supposed to be holding in the first place. You ever kill your own dream just to stay safe? A few days later, something happened that changed everything for me, and I still don't know if it was God, fate, or just kindness circling back. I was on my way to the stream again, and I saw this old woman by the side of the road, sitting in the dirt, with a bundle of firewood tied beside her. Her hands were shaking, like she'd tried to stand, and couldn't. People had passed her, I could tell, because you could feel that look in the air. That look where everyone sees you, but nobody stops. I dropped my keg and ran to her. I said, "Mama, are you all right?" And she whispered, "My strength failed me on the way." I didn't think twice. I ran down, scooped clean water from the stream, let her drink, wiped her face with my own scarf, lifted that heavy bundle of wood onto my head, and walked her home. Her little compound was dusty and sad, so I swept it out, split the firewood for her, started her cooking fire, arranged her things. She just stood there watching me with both hands on her chest, like she was looking at something she couldn't quite believe was real. Then she went inside and came back holding this beautiful wrapper and coral beads that glowed like sunrise. She put them in my hands and said, "Wear this to the competition. You belong there. Don't let anyone tell you you're not worthy to show up." I froze. Nobody had ever given me a gift like that. Ever. Not a dress, not a necklace, nothing. I held it like it was made of light. I brought it home and hid it in my box, the only thing I still had left from my late mother. And I locked it, and I swear to you, I could feel happiness sitting in my chest for the first time in forever. That night, while I was asleep on my mat on the floor, Vero snuck into my room, opened that box, took the wrapper and the beads, and hid them for Ma. The next morning, I opened that box, and it was empty. My stomach dropped to the ground. I ran to her door. I said, "Mama, my wrapper is missing, my beads are missing," and she didn't even look at me. She just said, "Then you were careless. Go find something useful to do." That was the first time in a long time I really felt like maybe they were right about me. Maybe I really was bad luck. Then came the day of the ceremony. The whole village felt like a festival. Girls were oiling their legs and practicing how to laugh. Softly, mothers were walking around like generals on a battlefield, and our compound was chaos. Vero had Ma glowing, covered in powder and perfume, and the same coral beads stolen out of my box. And me, I was boiling water, steaming towels, massaging Ma's arms, rubbing oil on her legs so she'd look perfect, cleaning and cleaning and cleaning, while I hadn't even eaten. Before they left, I asked in a whisper, "Since I can't dance, can I at least come and watch?" And Vero spun on me like a flame and said, "Watch what? So you can embarrass us. Stay here and work. And if I come back and this house is not shining, I'll make you sleep outside." Then they left dressed for royalty, while I was left alone with chores that felt like punishment. And now here's the twist, so stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. While the entire village was gathered at the palace dancing and shouting for attention, I was doing what I always did. I went back to the stream to fill water. The road was empty for once. The world felt quiet. I bent down to scoop water, and I heard footsteps behind me. I looked up and saw a man walking toward the water. He wasn't wearing royal clothes, no crown, no guards, just a simple white shirt, with the sleeves rolled up, brown trousers, dust on his shoes, and this calm, steady smile. He said, "Good afternoon," like I was a person, not a servant. He asked, "Please, can I have some water to drink?" And I gave him the cleanest water I could get in a leaf bowl with both hands. He drank, breathed out slow, then looked at me and said, "Thank you." We started talking. He asked, "Why aren't you at the palace with the rest?" And I laughed a little, not because it was funny, but because it was ridiculous, and I told him the truth. I said, "They told me the palace is not for people like me. I'm supposed to fetch water and sweep. They say I'm cursed. I'm just here to serve." He frowned like he'd been personally insulted. "And what is your place?" he asked me, and I said, Right now my place is getting this water home fast before my stepmother starts screaming again. He looked right in my face and said, "You're beautiful. If the prince doesn't pick you, he must be blind." And I almost choked. I said, "How will the prince see me? We're not from the same world. And anyway, I just want him to choose my younger sister, Ma. She deserves a good life." And he stared at me like I'd just said something he'd never heard in his life. Then, without asking, he took the heavy jerry can out of my hand. I said, "You don't have to do that, guys. Like you don't carry things." And he goes, "And girls like you shouldn't have to carry them alone." Yeah, that happened. He carried water with me back and forth more than once. He tried to sweep the compound, and I had to teach him to bend his waist because he was doing it all wrong, and we laughed like children. I roasted yam and made pepper sauce because that was what I had, and he ate it like it was the best meal he'd had in years. We talked about the city, about streetlights and pizza and cinemas, and for a minute I felt like a normal girl sitting on a mat, eating with someone who actually saw me. Then I heard a dog bark somewhere down the road, and I panicked, because if Vero or any of the neighbors saw me sitting and laughing with a man, I would pay for it with my body, so I told him, "You should go." He stood up, but he kept looking back at me like he didn't really want to leave. Meanwhile, at the palace, nobody could find the prince. All the girls had danced, Ma had performed wearing the wrapper and the beads that were stolen from me. Vero was already calling herself Queen Mother, and the prince never showed his face. The king was furious. He demanded to know where his son had gone. And this is where everything flips. The stranger who sat on my mat, eating roasted yam like a happy kid, the one who helped me carry water and said I deserved better. That was the prince. He had skipped his own bride selection ceremony to sit in the dirt with me and listen to me talk. That same evening, he told the king, "I've already chosen. Her name is Kamsi. She gave me water when I was thirsty. She carried firewood like it was nothing. She cooked for me and laughed with me. Her heart is rare." That's what he said about me. Me, the girl they called cursed. The next day, royal messengers showed up at our compound with yams, goats, rice oil, coral beads, wrappers, even money. The whole village ran to watch. Vero screamed and danced and told everyone my daughter has won royalty, has entered this family, and she was shining like she'd already been crowned. Meanwhile, guess what I was doing while she was celebrating my so-called blessing? I was working like a mule, carrying water, until my shoulders shook, hauling wood, until my palms burned, scrubbing chairs so clean I could see my own reflection. If it were you, would you have felt excited or just tired? Then the palace arrived in full. Guards in red drummers, trays of gifts, even the king himself. They dressed Ma like a bride and covered her face with a lace veil. The prince walked forward, lifted the veil in front of the entire village, and everything froze. "What is this?" he said, calm but cold. "Who is this? This is not my bride." You could feel the shock hit the crowd like thunder. Vero ran forward, smiling, but already shaking. "My prince, this is your bride, the one you chose," and he said, "No. The woman I chose is Kamsi, the girl who gave me water at the stream, the girl who cooked for me. That is the woman I will marry." People screamed. The king stood and said, "We are here for Kamsi. The bride price has already been paid." My father suddenly found his voice after years of silence, shouting, "Kamsi is my daughter," like he hadn't just watched me suffer in that same house. Vero couldn't talk. Ma ran inside in tears. And then someone said, "Where is Kamsi? You want to know where I was? I wasn't even there." Vero had sent me to the forest, to fetch more firewood so I wouldn't embarrass her in front of the royals. Palace guards rode out to find me. I was in the bush with a bundle of wood on my head when they stopped their horses and said, "They're waiting for you," and I literally said, "Who is waiting for me?" And they answered, "The king, the prince, the whole village." When I walked back into that compound, dusty feet smoke in my hair, sweat on my face, still in work clothes, all eyes turned. The prince pointed at me like I was the only person in the world and said, "She is the one I want to marry." I looked at him, finally understanding, and whispered, "You're the prince," and he smiled and said, "Let's just say I was undercover, and I'd carry water with you again." After that, everything flipped fast. They brought me to the palace, washed me, dressed me in royal fabric, placed coral beads around my neck, sat me beside him like I'd always belonged there. People who wouldn't even let me stand next to their daughters were suddenly kneeling in front of me and calling me Your Highness. Vero and my father couldn't even look me in the eye. Ma locked herself in the house and wouldn't come out. And the same villagers who used to whisper, "She's cursed," now whispered, "That's the girl they used to send to fetch firewood, and now she's queen." Yeah, that happened. You want to know the ending? I didn't throw them out. I could have. I could have humiliated Vero in front of everyone after all the years of insults and beatings. I could have told my father, "Now you remember I exist," but I didn't. I gave them a new house. I gave them a monthly allowance. Now every time they see me, they keep their eyes low and say, "Your Royal Highness," like I'm not the same girl they used to scream at before sunrise. Guilt is heavier than firewood, remember that. My sister Ma, she never came to the palace again, and the village still jokes. After all that waist-shaking, your sister married your husband, which is cruel, but you know how people are. I went back later to find the old woman who gave me that first wrapper and those beads because I wanted to thank her and take care of her, but she was gone. Her little compound was empty, like she'd never been there at all. So here's where I leave you. People called me cursed, useless, bad luck, not worthy to stand in the same space as the girls they oiled and trained. But what chose me wasn't my looks, wasn't the way I danced, wasn't some magic perfume. It was the fact that even on my worst days, I still gave someone water. I still helped someone stand up. I still cooked for someone with what I had. Now I'm going to ask you this, and I want you to answer in the comments. Who do you think was really wrong here? Was it Vero for trying to steal a future that wasn't hers? Was it my father for staying silent and then pretending proud? Was it the village for calling a child bad luck until somebody important said otherwise? Or was it me for forgiving people who didn't deserve it? If it were you, would you still take care of them? Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Drop your opinion in the comments. I want to hear what you would have done in my place. Like if you stayed with me to the end, share this with somebody who's been told they're nothing, and make sure you're subscribed, because this is not the only story where the girl they tried to hide ended up on the throne.